hello, and very Mrs. Doubtfire there for some reason. Hello, and hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Babbling with Dylan Harris. It's a terrible Mrs. Doubtfire, but maybe it'll help the algorithm to get more people's attention. How does she sound again, Mrs. Doubtfire? Oh, hello, I've got to mind the children. Terrible. Ah, God bless Robin Williams. I miss him so much. He is one of my heroes. I love Robin Williams to pieces. If you haven't seen Mrs. Doubtfire recently, it's such a good movie. It's funny and heartfelt and just great. And right off the top, just being wholesome, talking about Mrs. Doubtfire. Don't know why that came into my head. It came to my head because I sounded like her when I said hello. And it's getting worse and worse every time I attempt it. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Babbling, and I'm already immediately staying true to the name by talking absolute bullshit right at the top. This is a show I do exclusively on my Patreon that you can support for as little as £1 a month. If you like me at all, I would really appreciate it if you did. It would make a big difference in the all spendy account boy thingy. That I'm going to stick with that being what I'm referring to. I know what the real word is, a bank account. I'm not stupid. I just preferred that little rhythm of words there. I made it a Dr. Seuss poem or something. My little spindy banky bank boy. You know, that classic Dr. Seuss rhyme from 1952. But yes, welcome to Babbling. My monthly podcast I do on Patreon just to talk with you guys about nonsense going on in my life, some things I watched, some things that have happened since I last recorded. And it's been a fun month and a half, however long it's been since I last recorded this. Having a blast, tipping away at my usual banter. What did we jump into first? Obviously, at the top, I tend to talk about shooting Deluded, my TV show that I'm working on. I'm liking talking about making Deluded on this too, because it's kind of pushing me to get more production done, because it's like, if I do more filming, I can have a story about it for the podcast, so that's fun. Thankfully, the filming we did this month was a lot lighter in terms of crew and cast, because it was just a scene involving two people, so it was more intimate, but it was really fun to kind of really get in there because we weren't too pressed for time and it wasn't too stressful of a shoot, so that was really fun to kind of just get in there. You know what I've been loving about the show actually has been kind of everyone is really interested and passionate and wanting to give suggestions outside of just being an actor on the show worrying about their character, or just being a assistant director worrying about making the angles look good. Whenever someone thinks of a joke that might just make that scene pop a little bit more, they'll add it. And it's wonderful to see, and by the end we'll have this scene that's just kind of firing all cylinders in different ways because everyone's contributed. Everyone in the room would wind up contributing in a really fun way. It's just been a great team of people that just makes me feel inspired to keep making this project, because I won't lie, I made a pilot for a show that I wrote. When did we film that? It would have been back in 2022. That I never ended up doing anything with. It's not because I didn't believe in the script, but it was just honestly the team around me didn't really seem to care, and it made me demotivated because I just felt like I was the only person who gave a shit. And it's like, if the people who I asked to be involved in the project don't care, then how can I get anybody else to care, And I'm not trying to, it's nothing on those people. They did their best. But it just made me not believe in the project. And I actually don't think the script is as good as the script is anyway, so there's probably that to do with it also. Another thing that it probably is that script that I'm talking about that I did back in 2022, that was a script that I wrote kind of just for laughs, which is fine, but it had nothing personal to do with me in it. Whereas this other show, Deluded, which is literally my name with the word deluded, is obviously very personal. You can tell just from the name. And I guess when it's personal, people just listen a bit more, because they can feel that you're being honest in your writing. And I think that helps more than people would give it credit for. Even talking about stand-up comedy, which I'll get to in a moment as well, of course, I always feel more connected to someone who I feel like is talking about themselves in their material rather than just, a bunch of one-liners. That being said, some one-liner comedians are very revealing about themselves in the medium of one-liner jokes. So, I'm not discounting one-liners. But you know, just someone who feels like they're actually telling you something about themselves and they're being honest in their work rather than just going up on stage and telling jokes. I don't know. I've always felt more connected to creators who feel like they're letting you in on something, you know? So, yeah, I guess that's probably a part of why this project is, seems to be resonating with the team, and I'm continuing to want to make it and feeling inspired by it, you know? Because the main crux of the show is me going through my first major breakup. And I guess that's, you know, to me, that's a personal thing that happened in my real life, but it's obviously not that specific, so other people can relate to that. Um, so yeah, it's almost like the more personal you get, the more broader you become, almost. Like this isn't something I just came up with. This is a thing that already exists out there. But yeah, it's really interesting. I think it's interesting anyway. But yeah, the shoot was great. As I said, it was very, very simple scenes, so we got to really kind of get in there and like, okay, well, what if we tighten this joke here, and what if we move this over there, and there was fun little, almost like mathematical stuff going on there. Because I always say it at my film shoots for scripts I've written that I'm not Aaron Sorkin. And it's not to say that I don't believe in my writing. I do. I think I'm a good writer, but if somebody came up with something that I think is better, I'm not going to be precious about, no, this is my script, you know, this is better. This makes the scene pop just a little bit more. So why would I say no to that, you know? Yeah, I think not having ego in your work is so important, and something I've only learned, honestly, probably in the past year and a half. Because my ego has been going away, I can thankfully say. Not having ego in your work just makes it better because you let other people contribute more, you listen to suggestions more. I've even been taking like people's suggestions in my stand-up recently too. I've been kind of doing some writing sessions with people and stuff like that, and it's just really handy to just get another eye, you know? And that does not discount you as a writer. It actually makes you a stronger writer because you're able to hear constructive criticism. The reason why I avoid criticism for so long is some people love just being like, that sucks. And it's like, that's not helpful. Constructive criticism can be incredibly helpful. So it's important to listen rather than just get defensive, you know? Don't bother explaining. You know, if someone asks a question about why did you write this, don't explain. Hear their suggestion. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's okay too. You know, if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to take every suggestion. That's obviously important as well to kind of have merit in your work. But I think if a suggestion does resonate with you, don't reject it. I think is an important lesson right there. Look at me getting all philosophical immediately. My God, it's so sunny right now in London. It's lovely. Don't get me wrong. I'm not judging. I'm not complaining. But it's making my hair so frizzy and weird. I mean, I like it, but it's all kooky. But yeah, the shoot was super fun. Nothing really crazy happened, so I don't have any crazy stories for you there. It was just a wholesome good time, yeah. Thank goodness, honestly. But yeah, I have some new bits I'm working on as well, because I like running some bits with you guys. This has been quite fun. Some bits I've done on stage already. Some bits I've done a few times on stage, actually, and other bits I have not had the balls to take to the stage yet. It just, the opportunity has not arisen yet. But this first bit, kind of a dark one. But I've been having good fun with it on stage, and people do seem to be enjoying it. Is I talk about a suicide prevention charity that I was reading about online, and I saw that their funding, this is totally true by the way, their funding went up this year, and they decided to celebrate by hosting a skydiving event. Pause for laughter. Yeah. I feel like if your charity's focus is suicide prevention, skydiving is not really the way to go. That's a demo for what it might feel like to kill yourself. You're asking people afterwards, like, oh, how did you find it? Like, oh, it was great. Midway in the air, I felt this sense of relief that I've never felt before in my life. It would also be very easy to loosen the parachute, you know, make it look like it was the company's fault. Suicide prevented, homicide succeeded. So yeah, that's a dark bit, I know. I'm having great fun with it though. It's been landing. I think it's been a closer a few times now actually, because it just kind of feels it's a good punchy ending, and it's so dark that it's a hard one to follow, you know. So it's kind of it's been a good closer at the moment. Yeah, 'cause I kind of have all these kind of stories related to Ireland. Revolving like me nearly experiencing death, or friends of mine having close encounters with death. So there are all these kind of interconnected stories that have been landing quite well. And I've been having a blast telling them. There's something about stories. Again, I guess because they're more personal. You feel like you're letting people in on you rather than just doing a little observation about, dating apps. Oh, Tinder sucks. Oof, I'd never get any action on that. It's something actually like meaty. And like I've been finishing off with the suicide prevention stuff, and it's been landing. Could be some people listening to it right now being like, "That's dark and I don't like it," but the audiences in the clubs tend to, but they also tend to be a darker crowd. But that helps. People who have a good dark sense of humor is very helpful. So that bit's been very fun. Don't have much to add to that bit yet, really. I think it's okay where it is. It's important too sometimes that if you think a bit, if you're comfortable where a bit is at, you don't need to add more to it. Like I had a bit about World War II for ages. I know I mentioned this in a previous podcast. That I've been trying to add bits to because I feel like there's more to explore there. And that's fine because it's such a broad concept of a bit. But this one's like, that joke starts and ends, I feel like, where it should start and end, so why bother trying to do more with it, I'm happy with that. This other bit I have not found the same level of confidence with yet is I'm talking about my granddad, who was a taxi driver, who was also very interested in drinking and driving. That's like being a surgeon and a serial killer. Pick one. And I go on to tell a story about how he was so obsessed with drinking and driving, they actually even had an excuse for it, where he would say, "I'm actually better driving drunk. I overthink too much when I'm sober." Eventually, we had to sit him down and we said, "Granddad, this is your livelihood. You're going to get arrested. You can't keep doing this." And he was like, "You know what? You're right." And I'll never forget that moment. He got in his car. It was his first time driving sober in years. He drove off. He turned the corner, died instantly. So, it's a very long-winded bit. And if that punch doesn't land, it's sore. I only wish I could see people reacting to it right now. There's not much to gain for me. I'm now realizing this bit, this segment of the show has no merit for me personally. If anyone has anything they would like to say in the comments about that bit, that'd be helpful actually. If anyone wants to comment something, that is encouraged. Because if you're subscribed to Patreon, you obviously like me to some extent, so it's not going to be like, "That bit sucks and I hate you." It might be something constructive and worthwhile, so please, if you'd like, throw it at me. But yeah, that bit, I've only done it twice. The first time got a kind of lukewarm reaction. Sorry, no, the first time got a good reaction, which is why I did it a second time. And the second time was very, very lukewarm. I kind of haven't had the confidence to do it since then. This third time I attempted it, I did the first bit about that's like being a surgeon and a serial killer, and it didn't really hit, and it didn't give me the confidence to go into the more long-winded driving died instantly. Because the thing is, bits like that can be trickier because they require the audience to really be listening for the joke to land, which when they are listening and it lands, it's a beautiful feeling. But sometimes they just don't have the attention span, truth be told. An audience at a free comedy gig in London, they're drinking and having a groovy time. They're not paying attention to your setups. You know what I mean? If it's a long-winded one, sometimes it's just the audience isn't here for it, which is fine. What can I do? They're just there to have a good time, and that's their decision. But yeah, with that in mind, it makes it trickier ones. Maybe even just tightening up the journey there might be the way to go. That I'm talking about. I'm like, yeah, maybe just tightening it up is probably the way to go. It's almost funnier because you take so long to get there, though. I don't know. It's almost like that Simpsons bit where Sideshow Bob keeps getting hit by the rakes. It's funny because it just keeps going, But I don't know. There's a lot more to explore there for sure. But I'm liking the journey. As always, these things are their own little separate journeys almost, and that's fun, exciting. Having all these little mini projects. That's what working on material for stand-up is like. You have all these little mini projects. Like, okay, well, I have World War II. I have ridiculous. I have World War II. I have suicide. I have vegans. I have, what other dark bits do I have? I have my friend being a crack addict. And it's like let's explore the World War II bit for a bit. Okay, I'm liking where where World War II is at. Let's leave that alone for a second. Let's go back to crack addict friend. Let's explore crack addict friend some more. You know, because all these weird little things going on, and that's the wonderful thing about stand-up is you do have endless time to work on these things. Obviously, it's your own journey and nobody else's, and it's just wild. It's just this wild, fun little thing. You can leave a joke alone for 6 months if you want to, and go back to it and be like, oh, the bit where I talk about watching a sex scene with my dad, that was fun. Let's bring that back. So that makes the journey just so kind of fun and interesting. Have all these bits that I'm doing it long enough now. I'm 2.5 years. I'll be 3 years in July actually. I have all these bits now that I genuinely like, so I can look back at old bits and be like, oh, that bit, I haven't done that in a long time. I like that bit. Let's bring it back, So that's a really fun thing about doing stand-up, yeah. But what else do I have? I'm probably boring you with the details of performing material. Let's go for some more bits. This one's been landing pretty well, actually. I've been kind of trying to do these little sort of I'm so lonely that. Kind of inspired by Rodney Dangerfield. He used to always, all of his material was, I get no respect, and here's an example of me getting no respect. And he's got some amazing, he took that concept to new levels. One of my favorite ones is he said, I get no respect. The last day I was walking home after a gig, and I saw a man out jogging naked. And I said, why aren't you wearing any clothes? And he said, I didn't know you'd be home early. It's such a good joke because you just all these images come into your head immediately of this guy sleeping with his wife, taking his clothes, running away from the house naked, leaving his clothes there. And he sees the husband, but he then tells the husband that he's sleeping with the wife. It's just, there's so much going on in that joke. It's so good, so quick and brilliant. Kind of inspired by, the I get no respect concept of okay, what if I talk about how lonely I am? And here's how lonely I am. I only have 2 at the moment, but the one is I'm so lonely that I ring up call girls to talk about my feelings, which has been landing. Sometimes I might say it's cheaper than therapy, which kind of works. It's a fun, stupid, it's a stupid quick gag, but I enjoy it. And another one is I'm so lonely that sometimes I'll go to the cinema, and even if it's an empty screen, I'll still book a seat right next to a stranger. And that one gets varied reactions. Sometimes it gets a big laugh. It's like, oh my God, imagine you're sitting on your own in a cinema and it's not busy and a stranger sits right next to you. Has happened to me before too. And in real life, I think those people are jerks and I would never be that person. And yeah, sometimes it gets a big laugh for that reason. Or at times it gets an awe. And there's nothing I hate more in stand-up than an awe. And look, I go into darker stuff. Sometimes I talk about my relationship with women being not always great, and here's a conversation I had with my dad once that didn't go well, stuff like that, and the audience will go, oh, I'm like, oh, fuck that, that's the last thing I want in stand up. If you're getting that, rewrite the joke or axe the joke. Sometimes it's just a nice audience too, obviously, it's not always on you, there's just a kind crowd, that aren't up for your self-deprecation, because I can't be tough myself, my material too, and I don't feel bad about it or anything. I think if you show straight up that you're willing to make fun of yourself, it allows for you to make fun of other people and other things later, and the audience are okay with it because you've shown that you have an ability to make fun of you, that's important also. But that cinema bit is kind of hitting sometimes, not hitting other times. It's been interesting, more to explore there for sure. And I'm liking just the I'm so lonely, but I think there's more to do there for sure. I'm so lonely I hit on widows at funerals. That one's a bit silly, but stuff like that is fun. It would have to be more pathetic though, because me hitting on a widow at a funeral is just that guy has balls. What's more pathetic? I'm so lonely that when I go to a funeral, instead of talking to the widow, I talk to the corpse. I don't know, something like that. I cuddle the corpse. He makes me the little spoon. Stupid things like that. It makes me feel protected. I'm laughing at my own stuff. And that's all that matters. I'm kidding. But Not really. It's you have to like the joke first, obviously. That's important. But yeah, do I have any other bits I've been looking at? I haven't done any of this on stage yet, but I've been thinking about, because I went bowling recently for a staff party, and it was a lovely time. But I was thinking about, when you go bowling and you're watching the ball go, and everyone's watching you, so you have to like kind of do stuff with the back of you. You have to be like, ah, ah, or if you get it, you're like, and then there's the walk back, and you always have to do something for the walk back, and I hate it. You have to be like, or you gotta be like, what? See that one? Hey. I hate the walk back. Can we not just make an agreement? I'm realizing now this is a very Jerry Seinfeld bit. I hate the walk back. I do hate the walk back though. Can we not just make an agreement that we don't do anything? We can talk about how the strike went once I get back, but do I have to acknowledge it as I walk? It's the whole thing is just awkward. So yeah, that's not a bit yet, but I think there's something to explore, because I know everyone feels that awkwardness. Everyone who's been bowling finds that awkward, because it just is by nature, So I think there's something to explore in that, but it's an idea. It's not a bit just yet. And the other one I had was genuinely, I was on the tube, the London Underground, the last day, and there was two ads in front of me. One was for therapy and one was for gin. I don't have the exact wording for it written down here. I have it in my phone notes somewhere. But the therapy one was like, give it a go. It'll open your mind. And the gin one was, why not gin? And the gin one was just so much catchier that I went home and I got a bottle of gin. Again, this is only the beginning of an idea so far, but like, I find it funny, and it was just true too, which is why I think there's humor to be found, is that the marketing for the gin was better than the marketing for the therapy. And more people are alcoholics because alcohol has a bigger and puts more money into their marketing than therapists do, I'm trying to do something with my hands here and it's failing. They're therapists than therapists do, I think there's something interesting there, because it's just true, because alcohol companies have more money than therapy companies, what I mean? Obviously there's still a huge market in therapy, but Heineken is making more money than BetterHelp. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm 99% certain it's true. You know what I mean? So there's something interesting there about that. Like, and obviously it's not true, but like that more people are alcoholics than people are going to therapy, because it's just better marketing. There's more money being put into it. It's catchier and it grabs you more. It's like, I want a beer. You never look at a therapist ad and go, I want to start working on myself. I don't know. There's something to explore there. I think there's something interesting there. But again, it's just the beginning of a concept currently. It's not a bit just yet, but it will be. You could cut back to me next week. You'll see me smashing it at the comedy store in London with that therapy, but unlikely. It's still very, very early stages, obviously, for this bit. But I like the idea of it. I definitely will try it on stage soon. And what else do I have? Those are all the bits I have currently, but in terms of stand-up tales, which is the other segment we have, is some experiences doing stand-up recently. All fun stuff, really. Me falling flat in my face, me doing some fun stuff and feeling good about these little baby steps of comedy is kind of what I have for you guys this month. I did this new material gig in Seven Sisters. I did 10 minutes and I opened with tried and tested stuff for probably about 5 minutes, and then the other 5 minutes was all new. And this guy came up to me afterwards and was like, was the second section new? And I went, yeah. And he went, I could tell because your openers were so strong. And he just started like telling stories and there wasn't really jokes there. I went, dude, I didn't say this to him. This is me talking about it afterwards. Like, dude, I know what happened. You know what I mean? The audience are aware of what happened. I am aware of that so much more viscerally than the audience is. You know what I mean? Like, I feel it more. So I'm obviously aware that I was telling some stories where I thought there were jokes and it turned out it was just me having a counseling session, because sometimes that's just, you know, you write and it looks funny on paper and you say it out loud and it's like, this is kind of more of an observation than it is a joke, you know. And yeah, I was getting some awes again actually from the audience, because it was just kind of sad, not sad stories, but just kind of, I was telling stories of, I was telling a story about the first time I had unprotected sex, and the next day, me and the girl I was seeing had to get a morning after pill, but I was weary about it because of how expensive it was. And I'm telling that story, and I wrote what I thought were jokes, and was kind of just coming out a little bit like I'm just depressed and broke, you know what I mean, and just scared to spend money ever, which is true. But that's what it was coming out. It was just like a cry for help rather than material, you know? And that's fine. I've rewritten those bits since then. I think it's actually a lot better, and in kind of a place now where I feel way more confident doing it. But that was my first time ever doing it. So I just thought it was funny that a guy came up and told me what happened. It's like, dude, I know what happened. You know. What else do I have here? I did a compliments battle recently that I thought was so much fun, and honestly kind of prefer to do a roast battle. It is basically a reverse roast battle, where instead of roasting the person that you're partnered with, you compliment each other, which sounds lame, I know, and I was initially not for it either, but I'll try out anything once. And you know what, it ended up being a great time, because firstly, working on it, I had to challenge myself to write a funny compliment, which is really hard. Writing a funny roast is easy. I'm not discounting people who do a lot of roast battles. I know it's definitely an art form, and it's tricky. I mean, I've never won one for that. I haven't mastered it yet. I know it's tricky, but I do think it's easier to make fun of somebody in a funny way rather than compliment someone in a funny way. You know what I mean? So it was really, really fun. I think the big thing, everyone there was killing. It was such a fun gig. And I was really anticipating that people would do backhanded compliments, and people actually didn't, because that's just the easy thing to do, you know? And it ended up being just a fun night of people flattering other people, but in a funny way. It ended up being hilarious. I roasted this comedian named Helen Kay, who is a very funny Russian lady. And yeah, I was really pushing myself to not insult her, you know? I insulted myself in the bit sometimes. I think some bit of self-deprecation needed to be in there to make the joke work, but the big thing I wanted to do was not insult her, and I think I didn't. I hope I didn't. But yeah, I didn't even write them down now, but like one of them was Helen is 25% Jewish and 75% my type. You know, it's silly. It only really works in the context of a compliment battle, obviously. But I think it was a funny joke. It was one of the biggest reactions of the night, for me. And what else did I have? I had a joke about how she sponsored a Ukrainian refugee, and how she's the only Russian she's the only Russian a Ukrainian has ever been thankful for. And that got a laugh, because again, it's not insulting to her. It's insulting to other Russians, and you know, it's touching a bone, but it was a compliment to her. So you know, that was the fun challenge, was not just doing a backhanded compliment. And credit is due to every comedian there, and none of them went there because that's obvious, and that would just made it a roast. You know, and it was a compliment battle. It was such a fun night. I'm trying to remember what other jokes I had. I had 5. I gave you 2. What else did I have that I haven't said to you yet? Oh, I did a poem. That's how I ended. I did a poem where I said, I can't remember off by heart now, but it was like, forget the refugees, adopt me instead. I said like, oh, if you nuked my country, I'd still love you. So, you know, it's fun because you're not insulting them, but, you know, you're being cheeky. It was a really fun night because everyone was challenging themselves and how they wrote the stuff, and it made so much more interesting than just, oh, look, this guy's fat, or Dylan, he's Irish, they love drinking. You know, it was fun to see. Like, she had her best joke about me that I remember anyway, was that Dylan is such a feminist that he lets women beat him. So funny, you know? Hilarious, and it's not hurting anybody, and it tickles you. Like it's just clever in a fun, unique way. And that's what those compliments battles challenge you to do. I would like to see more nights doing them actually, because it was just an interesting, fun gig. Um, but yeah, I mean, this one guy went up and just the guy next to him was like much taller than him, and he just spoke about how he wanted to suck his cock for the whole thing, and that was hilarious too. You know, it's like doesn't hurt anybody. Audience is laughing. The guy next to him was just being told he has a big cock. Like that's funny, you know. It was such a fun gig. Had a real blast. Definitely a highlight of the gigs I've done since I've last done this podcast. What else was there? I did a fantastic gig in Manchester. Only a few days ago. Went up there with my good buddy Ollie Miller, my best friend in stand up. It's a gong show. People who don't know gong shows, you have you try to do 5 minutes, but the audience, 3 judges, can gong you off any second they want, basically. And I did it and only got 2.5 minutes in. But you know what? I'm proud of the experience, and I wasn't bombing. The audience were really digging it. 215 people in the audience, and they seemed to really like me. But unfortunately, we only need 2 people to get gonged off. They decided they didn't think I was good enough, and that's fine. You know, I didn't leave in bad spirits. I feel like I had a really fun, tight 2:30. Audience seemed to really be digging it, and I felt good after it. And it was just a fun trip. We took a coach up and stayed at a Holiday Inn, you know, cheapest hotel we could find, but it was great. A nice room, and they had a TV. We watched Would I Lie to You after the gig, which is a fun little thing to wind down to after, you know. And we had free breakfast next day, which was fantastic. Oh, good breakfast too, like worth far more than what we paid for the room, honestly. So yeah, just a great fun little trip. Yeah, we like had a little cycle down Manchester. We rented those Lime bikes, and they friggin' kind of a scam, to be honest. They charged us £10 because we didn't lock the bike properly. I don't think so, but they had a lovely cycle through Manchester, which is a fun gig. It was a fun time, fun to be on the road doing something. You know, it was a blast, and to do with my best buddy, which was just so fun too. He did a full 5 minutes, and I was just so proud and happy for him. You know. And that's been a big lesson for me too, is just like not getting jealous and not comparing. I mean, one of the biggest quotes I've ever seen that has just resonated with me and has really stuck with me is comparison is the thief of joy. And I can just be happy for all the creative friends of mine doing well in life, you know, and just seeing them do well, and that doesn't have any reflection on me, you know, because I don't want to be the only person in the world doing well in their creative pursuits. I want the world to be full of artists being successful and doing what they love doing, when they're good at it and when they don't hurt people with what they do. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing for me. And it's just, yeah, I didn't leave in bad spirits seeing my friend, you know, nearly win the competition when I didn't win. And I was proud of myself, because if it happened a year ago, honestly, I would have been the opposite. I would have been downcast and downtrodden, like, oh, fuck my life. You know, like, and just be happy that I went up there, did my best, and, you know, I'll try again next time. Simple as that. I kind of like the consistency, you know, being taken down a peg and being knocked down doing comedy. It humbles you a lot, stand-up, which other mediums I've done don't. Filming all the time, you can get lost in your own bubble. Kind of the same for acting, although you can get rejected doing auditions and stuff. It's not quite the same thing. Stand up, you feel like constant rejection a lot, but it's actually healthy. It makes you stronger, and weirdly, it makes you believe in yourself more, because you learn about your own resiliency. You know, I'm getting really fucking philosophical here. I feel like I'm not being funny enough in this podcast. If people like that I'm getting deep, let me know. But I'm kind of starting to fear that I'm not being funny enough. I'm just going on tangents and absolute nonsense and non sequiturs, and I don't know, should I be talking about going on Grindr more often or something like that? I haven't been on Grindr. I'm just trying to think of something funny to lighten the mood, because I'm going on absolute nonsensical tangents. But I guess this is what you're going to do when you don't have someone to bounce off. But yeah, I don't know. Manchester was a blast. But yeah, let me know if I should be funnier in this. I'll try to be conscious to do that. I'm enjoying the tangents and the stories. If you enjoy those too, please let me know, because I'm not sure Well, should we? It's only the third episode. Yeah, third episode. So we're still living and learning here. But so far, I mean, the very few people who watch this seem to be enjoying it. So let me know if I should be goofier or not. Because if you want me to be goofier, I can. Oh, look at me. I'm crazy. I'm sorry. This seems like I'm having a breakdown now. I like my hair this way though. Look at that. It's kind of nice. Yeah. Oh, I did something accidental there, and it actually looks kind of cool. Sometimes you get the best looks when you're not trying too hard. You're probably listening to this right now being like, that your hair looks like shit. No, I know you're not thinking that. These wavy locks, come on, you wished you had those. Look at that beauty. Yeah, what else do I have to talk about? That's all the stories. Yeah, Manchester was definitely the highlight. The best thing I've done since doing this podcast. Just in general, just doing that trip, taking that risk. Those leap of faiths are good. If you get a coach and find the cheapest accommodation you can find, it's not even a huge financial risk. That's the thing I was always worried about, was spending too much on travel. But if you get a coach, it's only like an extra 2 hours difference to getting a really expensive train, and just find a shitty accommodation somewhere. And we ended up finding a good accommodation too. Holiday Inn didn't cost that much. Honestly, it was dirt cheap. And it was a nice bed and breakfast the next day. And breakfast was like eggs and hash browns and cereals. Like, it was a good selection. So you can find good shit if you just look a little harder. Don't just go for the first hotel you find, or just book the easy train. I honestly, the coach was nicer. I would have rather do a 4-hour coach and get the beautiful views, the countryside, rather than getting a long, dull train. I like trains too, but I don't know, the coach just felt more like I'm on the road. It was cool. Like that comedian dream of being on the road. It was awesome. Yeah, definitely need to hit up Manchester soon, or some other competitions or gigs outside of London. And honestly, people laugh more because there's not as much comedy and stuff going on there. People don't feel spoiled for choice. In that, just they're more grateful that there's a show being put on. Whereas in London, it's like, oh, I could have gone to the West End tonight. I could have gone to the Comedy Store tonight instead of jacking off motion there. Didn't mean to, but hey, get some content going. You can edit that if you want. Add a little dick in, a big dick, obviously. People in London, yeah, they're like, I could have gone to see the Stranger Things play. I could have gone to see, I don't know, Kevin Hart at the O2 Arena. I'm here now watching you, buddy. Wow me. There's kind of that attitude in London sometimes, which is good, obviously. It's good. That challenge is good. But when you go to places like Manchester, or even last year I did Brighton, less shows are happening there. So people just kind of feel a bit more grateful to be watching a show. I don't know. They were such good audiences. And people came up to me afterwards, talking to me as well, like, oh, I loved your set, which was awesome. Doesn't happen too much in London. That was nice. Like, I only did 2:30, and I still had people coming up being like, that vegan joke was really, so that was really cool. So yeah, being on the road is just fun, it's good to get out of the city, smell some fresh air, eat some new foods and stuff. We went to like a Jamaican place. I never eaten Jamaican before, so it was just fun to do like a whole new thing, that was awesome. I remember the waitress asked us what we were doing in Manchester, and we said we were comedians, and she was like, oh, are you funny? And I said, my dad doesn't think so. She didn't laugh. I was like, oh, I guess you don't think so either. You learn to love the bomb, honestly. It's funny that you put yourself out there like that and got rejected, you know what I mean? And it actually makes you better at getting rejected in real life. I've gotten better, like, asking women out and stuff like that. I haven't done too much, but I've gotten better just being like, do you want to go for a drink sometime? And they'll always back away in a funny way. They'll always be like, oh, I'm really busy at the moment. It's like, you could have just said no. You get better at taking rejection when you do stand-up comedy. It makes you better living in general. That's my advice to anybody who's struggling with life right now. Do stand-up. I'm kidding. Only do stand-up if you want to, and if it's actually something you feel passionate about, because it can be soul destroying sometimes, but it's also so much freaking fun, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. It's just a blast, and it's one of my is it my favorite thing to do? That's a good question. Is it my favorite thing to do? It's the thing I do the most, so it's kind of hard to say at the moment. I would love to be doing more acting roles, and I would love to try new more sketches, but it's hard with work and everything else. At the moment, it is my favorite thing to do. But there was a period there where I certainly preferred acting. That can always change. I definitely would love to do more acting parts and more roles, but it's just easier. Stand up is more there. Stand up is you can just do it every night if you want to, whereas you need to wait to be asked to act, you have to put yourself out there a lot more before you can act, whereas stand up you just get up and you do it. Jerry Seinfeld always made that observation, I find very interesting, is that stand up is the only job where your first time training for it is just you doing the job. Like if you were trained to be a surgeon, you trained for years before you would do surgery on anybody. Whereas stand up, you get up on your first time doing it is you up on stage doing it. It's crazy when you think about it. You don't train beforehand. You write the jokes and you do them in front of an audience. It's immediate. It's crazy, and yet it's one of the jobs that are the hardest to get and takes the longest to do, and the most training and patience and everything else. But yeah, the job is immediately you doing it. There's no bullshitting around. It's just getting up on stage and doing it. But that's what's great about it too, is there's such an honesty to it. But yeah, tangents galore in this one, in case you couldn't tell. Let's wrap it up with some recommendations, please. This is what you came for. I obviously do the recommendation segment in my podcast as well. Dylan Sebastian Simpson podcast, available where all fine podcasts are downloaded, and also on YouTube. Because I do way too much work on my own. But I'm very conscious to not recommend the same things on that podcast I do in this one. Which is actually very enjoyable. I watch and read so much anyway, so it's actually easy. But it's fun to be conscious of, okay, I've recommended this on the podcast, don't recommend it on Babblin, So here's some stuff I haven't spoken about on the podcast. The Fall Guy, I thought was an absolute hoot. It doesn't need too much of a plug because it's doing well. It's Ryan Gosling. God damn it, Ryan Gosling. I love him. I'm not ashamed to admit that I love him. I think he's a fantastic actor, just a really, really likable guy. When you watch him in interviews, you can just tell he's being super sincere and just it's who he is. He's not playing up to the camera or anything. But God, he's one of those people, because he's so goddamn handsome too, that you don't want to like him as much as you do. But then you watch him in a movie, you're like, he's talented, he's funny, he's likable. But he also has that energy about him where it's like, I feel like I could sit down and have a beer with this guy. You know what I mean? This is getting very lovey-dovey. Louis C.K. had a great bit about Magic Mike where he says he can't finish the movie because he knows how that movie ends. The ending to Magic Mike is that I'm gay. And that's probably what I sound like right now talking about Ryan Gosling. But honestly, I love him. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'll let you be my Ken any day. I'll let you write a notebook to me any day of the week, Ryan Gosling. I'll let you be my nice guy anytime. I will let you fall your guy onto me any day of the week. What other movies does he have? I'll let you be my first man anytime. I will let you la la all over my land any day of the week. I'm enjoying it. What other movies does he have? I'm running low now. I will let you Lars all over my real girl anytime. My point being, The Fall Guy is a very fun movie. Check it out. Action-packed, hilarious. I love Emily Blunt too. I love Hannah Waddingham. I love Winston Duke. He's such a good comedic actor. He's very funny, but he can hit you with the dramatic moments too, which he showcases very brilliantly in Us, which is, unpopular opinion incoming, my favorite Jordan Peele movie. I like it more than Get Out. I watched Us, I think 3 times now. I think it's such a goddamn good horror. One of my favorite horrors. And yeah, Winston Duke is fantastic and also really good in The Fall Guy. Fun movie, check it out. And Hannah Waddingham, as a side note, what a MILF. I will let her Ted all over my lasso any day. I don't even know other stuff she's in. She's in the new Garfield movie. I would let her eat my lasagna. It's not as funny when it's a woman. But yeah, what else I want to recommend? The Tom Brady roast was absolutely fantastic. Check it out. Oh my God, just firing on all cylinders. Everybody who was there, including, honestly, the American footballers, had like really good comedic timing. Obviously, the roasts are, I assume, written by them. I can't imagine they had any hand to play in the writing of those jokes because they're just not joke writers, but their delivery is great. Julian Edelman was brilliant. Ron Gronkowski was hilarious. Tom Brady was great when he went up at the end. Just so much fun. 3 hours, but it flew by. And the killers, obviously, the comedians who went up there, like Tony Hinchcliffe was hilarious. Jeff Ross obviously is the roast master. Kevin Hart hosted and he was hilarious. Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer like did a bit together. Nikki Glazer was absolutely killer. Every single joke was just bam, 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 bam. So yeah, if you're into roast battles, roast Tom Brady is honestly one of the best that has ever happened. It's just so good. Right, check it out. What else did I watch? Unfrosted, I thought was an underrated movie. Has been getting huge praise. I could honestly see it getting a cult following later, similarly to what happened with the B movie. I guess that's just the kind of movies Jerry Seinfeld makes, apparently, which is weird because obviously his TV show was immediately successful, but his films seem to not hit as quickly. Anyway, I think Unfrosted will get a cult following though. For those of you who don't know, it's about Jerry Seinfeld for some reason has a fixation with Pop-Tarts, and he's now written a whole movie about it. He has a great bit about it in his special. I think it was 23 Hours to Kill, which is one of the best specials ever, in my opinion. But my very, very humble amateur comedian opinion. But he's great. Obviously, everyone who is into comedy loves him for the right reasons. But Unfrosted, I think it's a really fun movie. It's about a fictional telling of the creation of the Pop-Tart, and insane cast. Jerry Seinfeld's the main dude, obviously. Jim Gaffigan's also in it. My first time ever seeing him acting outside of That 70s Show. I thought he was great in it. Amy Schumer. There's a bunch of cameos throughout that I won't spoil, but they were all good fun. Max Greenfield is Amy Schumer's assistant in it. He's really, really funny. People would know him from New Girl. He's got great comedic timing, I think. I thought it was a really, really fun movie. It's one of those. It's very rare to see a comedy film nowadays that's just like joke, joke, joke. It's not like trying to say something deeper. I love those comedies too, but it's just nice to see a film that kind of that airplane quality to it, where it was just telling you a funny story and telling you jokes. It wasn't trying to hit anywhere deep, you know. So that was good fun. Bill Burr is also great in that he plays JFK in one scene. That's not a spoiler; it's in the trailer. He's great. He really looked like John F. Kennedy. I was like surprised when I saw it, because I'd imagine he's older now than John F. Kennedy was when he died. Yeah, he played the part brilliantly, almost to an extent that maybe go, give Bill Burr a full-blown JFK movie. Not a biopic, even though he is a good dramatic actor. I would like to see him play JFK in a funny way. Have him explore his relationship with Marilyn Monroe or something, you know? That'd be in like a fun movie. I think I would love to see more Bill Burr as JFK. Honestly, maybe I should write this movie. Him as Bill Burr, and who could play Marilyn Monroe? Who could play Marilyn Monroe? Who hasn't played her yet? Because obviously, that lady from Knives Out and the Armaz already has in a very controversial movie. But who could play her who hasn't? Obviously, Michelle Williams as well played her brilliantly in that movie with Eddie Redmayne. My Week with Marilyn. That's a good movie. Who hasn't played her who could do good? The lady from Ozark. She'd be brilliant. I think it's Julia Garner. She'd be a great Marilyn Monroe, but she's a lot younger than Bill Burr, and that would show on screen. I want Bill Burr playing JFK. This will be where I'll close the podcast. This dumb movie idea. I want Bill Burr as JFK, and somebody close enough to his age that it's not weird on screen as Marilyn Monroe. Oh, maybe Kristen Wiig. I know she doesn't quite look like her, but she's beautiful and funny enough that you could get away with it. Kristen Wiig. That seems to work. Let's make that movie happen. I want to manifest that. Let's do a rom-com. But more comedy than romance, obviously, because it's a dumb concept for a movie. It could be like a parody of When Harry Met Sally, but it's Bill Burr as JFK and Kristen Wiig as Marilyn Monroe. I think that's a damn funny movie. Pitch it, pay me, Netflix or whoever wants to make that film happen, I'll write it. If you want to call it when Johnny met Mary, that doesn't work. When Harry met Sally, when Mary met Johnny, it's something. Maybe we won't go with the when Harry met Sally pun, but a pun on a rom-com related to JFK and Marilyn Monroe would be a fun name. What could it be? This is fun. These silly little brainstorms. You see how my mind works sometimes. Stupid ideas that come into my head. I have so many. Oh, that's something I could do for a future podcast. Show you guys just some random ideas I have in my notebook. I have so many crazy ideas for like movies and TV shows, podcasts, comic books. I have so many things I've written down for the future. So many that might never come into fruition. But it's fun to kind of have a smorgasbord of just like anytime I think of an idea, write it down. One of the best piece of advice I've ever seen, that was David Lynch, who said, whenever you think of an idea, he's joking, obviously, but he says, whenever you think of an idea, write it down. Because if you forget the idea, you want to shoot yourself. Watch on YouTube, there's a whole compilation of him consistently saying that. It's called like Make Sure David Lynch Never Forgets an Idea. It's so funny. But it's true. You do get annoyed when you know you had an idea that you really like and you just can't think of it anymore. But yeah, definitely will be a fun thing to do in a future podcast. Yeah, just like brainstorm some ideas. This could be a new segment. Just Dylan pitches a movie, or Dylan pitches an idea. I like the idea right there, right now. Freaking John F. Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe rom-com movie. Doesn't have to be Bill Burr and Christian Wiig, but I think that's pretty solid casting on my part. Have it be comedy actors. Whenever people do movies like this, they always have to cast attractive people. That's not to say that Bill Burr and Christian Wiig aren't attractive. They're both very attractive people. I think Christian Wiig is stunning, but she's seen more so as a funny woman as she is a beautiful woman. Give it to the funny people. I'm more interested in the funny than I am interested in the attractive, personally, you know? And maybe that's because I'm more funny than I am attractive. Although some people are probably watching this right now being like, dude, you have made me laugh once, but your face is beautiful. At least you think I'm handsome. Thank you so much. Guys, I've gone on longer than I've gone on for any babbling so far because I'm getting more comfortable doing this, which is fun and cool. We're easing into this nicely. But I think I will leave you guys there. I look very sad, didn't I? I could see my face. I was like, oh, I looked very upset. Like, I don't want to stop. No, I will leave you guys there. But this was great fun, and I think the pitching a movie segment is something I'll do in the future because that was a blast. But until then, I will see you guys soon. If you did get all the way here, I appreciate you, and tell people about my Bill Burr Christian Wiig movie because I think it's fantastic. Until then, guys, at ease, Captain. Good night, good morning, whenever you're watching this. Enjoy your life. That sounded condescending and mean the way I said that. Enjoy your life. Then that could be a nice way to end every podcast. Enjoy your life. Goodbye.